why your team owner does nothing. And in terms of does nothing, doesn't win very much. And I have a couple theories, so let's get into them right now. Theory number one, you can predict your team's future success based on how its current owner made their money. Now, just to give you a little context on this, Bob Nutting is in newspapers, and he buys local newspapers. His family's been doing this for over 100 years. And what they do is they get them profitable, and then they just let them sit. And that got me thinking, oh, he just likes passive income. So of course he runs his baseball team that way, which is terrible to run a baseball team. You're never gonna be competitive, which they're not, ever. And those owners go in two buckets, okay? I kind of separated them into two. One, they inherited their money from their parents or from their family or whatever, or they were self-made and they bought their team. And so I wanted to see, do self-made owners do a better job overall? Is there any trends? And then I have a second theory. The adoption of technology and information has widened the gap in performance because I think self-made are better. The way that information is in making quick decisions, people who built their businesses are better positioned to do that than nepo owners. I'm not gonna say nepo much here because I'm not out here I'm not trying to crap all over owners. Like, I know that people think that I want to do that. I'm just here to say, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just say all these guys are doing their best, and what doing their best is just what they know. And there's some stuff. There's some stuff. First thing I did was check right now. 12 of the owners inherited them, 18 of them were self-made, okay? The records for inherited were 268 and 269, so they're one game under 500, which means self-made were one game over 500. That's pretty even. Regular season, there was nothing really there. Almost exactly the same. But what about the last 15 years? So what I did was I thought about what is the technology information time in baseball? 2010 was about when teams started to invest in the data collection side of scouting and stuff, right? So some owners, I think, handled that better than others. So I wanted to see. This is the tech revolution I just mentioned. So this is how the owners were kind of broken up over those 15 years. There were 45 total owners of the 30 teams. There's 2.5 times as many self-made teams, owners, as there was inherited owners over this time period. This is how the numbers broke out. This is the winning percentage. This is division wins. This is playoff appearances. This is pennants. And this is World Series, all the way at the end, okay? I think I found something. So this is playoff appearances. There was 53 by guys that inherited their teams. There was 107 by self-made owners. That comes out to about a 2.2. So playoff appearances, pretty even. The ratio of those owners with the ratio of teams, about the same. That's about what we would expect. Division, 24 inherited, 64, okay. Now there's 2.75 times as many self-mades as inherited. So it's slightly swinging towards self-made when it comes to winning the division, not just making the playoffs. Division winners, self-made owners tend to win them a little bit more, and this is the last 15 years. But what about pennants? 25-5. That's 5 times as many. What about World Series? 13 of the last 15 were won by self-made owners. That's 6.5 times as many. So what this tells me, when self-made owners own a team, they tend to go farther into the playoffs. And why could that be? We'll talk about that in a minute. But I was like, has it always been this way, or is this real? Or is this just like a sample size thing? Because that's important with stats. So what I wanted to do was, I was like, all right, let's take the era before that. The golden era, as they call it, from 1980 to 2009. So in those 30 years, oh, these should be flipped, by the way. These numbers are backwards. I just realized that.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
So there's 4 times as many self-made as inherited. And this only includes teams that won a pennant or won the World Series. I wanted the teams that won over those 30 years, okay? 4 times as many self-mades, but only 2.6 times as many pennants and 3.2 times as many World Series. Interesting. Much more even from 1980 to 2009. Huh.
Coincidence? I think not.
Pre-technological revolution in baseball. Could it possibly be that owners that inherited their team benefited from experience because it was all eye test? When the game became data-driven, self-made owners, people that had to learn to build a business at that time, were better suited to use those skills to build a baseball team. But then you flip that on its head. It goes the other way in the 30 years prior, where people who are brought up maybe in a clubhouse, maybe in a front office, when their dad's running the team and they're just a kid hanging out, and they watch so much baseball that they act on that knowledge, and that knowledge was gold then, which would line up with analytics, wouldn't it?
Not a good idea, Billy.
So here's a few things that could be going in. There was significantly more corporate ownership in those 30 years, meaning there were certain teams that were just owned by a company, so it's hard to tell who the owner was. There were a couple wins by Nepo owners, which in the first year in this period of them taking over. For example, George Steinbrenner steps back in 2008, Howell wins in 2009, but has Howell won since? So like sometimes an inherited guy gets the World Series win when it wasn't his team really. He just inherited it the first year. That happened once or twice. Also, in the 80s, it was inherited people winning everything. Then the next 17, from 1990 to 2007, 17 straight World Series were won by a self-made owner. So I wanted to be like, okay, let's look at those first 10 years then of that. Pennants, 10-10, World Series 5-5. So even though there was twice as many self-mades, inherited owners had an advantage. So where we start to see the shift, starting in 1990 to 2010, those 20 years is when it starts to swing towards self-made. And then when we hit the technological breakthroughs, self-made frickin' took over.
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
Let me put this into context for you. Right now, Steve Cohen is the wealthiest owner in the major leagues, okay? We've seen stories about him creating situations where other owners are a little bit afraid to go head-to-head with him, especially in free agency, because they're gonna lose. That's because Steve Cohen's business is hedge funds. The guy just has made deals his whole professional life. He is the richest owner because he's really good at it. When your job is to compete all the time and win, and then you buy a sports team and you have the most money, at that point you are inevitable.
I am inevitable.
So it doesn't surprise me one bit that now their apparatus looks like a team that could be successful into the future and will be a powerhouse because he has made good decisions. He's made a bunch of mistakes, right? That's what anyone does when you're learning the business. But I think he's gotten a lot of those out of his system, and he is going to consistently produce winners. And we're not going to see rebuilds much from them anymore. But he has this skill set, right? This move quick, break stuff type skill set. And so when it comes to free agency, when it comes to trade deadline, he's not afraid to pull the trigger when people who inherited their team tend to move slowly on those situations because they didn't build it. So it's just not part of how they've operated in the past. So why would they start now? When they run into a guy who is willing to make quick decisions worth millions and millions of dollars fast, they're getting railroaded. That's why the Mets are signing everybody. That's why they spent so much money, is because he just runs over the Nepo owners that don't throw money around. They're just trying to hold on to things. The owner of the Reds is in meat packing. Nobody is disrupting the meat packing industry. He's got nothing to worry about. And so it's just business as usual. And that's why the Reds haven't won anything anytime soon. That's why Bob Nutting will never win, ever. Because he's just like, hey, give me my money and shut up. And I'm gonna say it right now. There's probably a pretty clear reason why Hal Steinbrenner isn't winning a bunch of World Series anymore. He spends some money, and they made it last year. Like, they're not bad. They didn't go to being bad, but he's definitely not the shark that George was. I think that's pretty clear. And honestly, the success, at least the back end of the pennants in the World Series, are overwhelmingly swapped to guys that built their own businesses. When you make your own business, you take risks. When you inherit your business, you tend to not take as many risks. It's that simple. So I want to know, should we talk individual teams at all? Let me know in the comments if we should go deeper into any of this stuff.